Your hosts are The Great Order and No White Guilt. And this is the one and only After Party. We didn't have a crown winner last week, but you may financially gift on Entropy at 15%, where you can also watch on the stream and ask and vote on questions, or you can also financially gift over on Cash App. Both of the URLs are in the description below. Jared and I, folks, you know this, evenly share the financial gifts with our guests here on the After Party. And today we have a very special lady with us. We have the one and only Jody K on tap. Jody, please introduce yourself to our esteemed community. Tell them where they can find you. And then, Jared, please take us into the conversation.
Well, hello, good evening to those who are in England and Europe, and good afternoon to your audience over there across the pond. I am Jody K. This is my second appearance on tap. You can find me currently still, while I'm still there, on YouTube. Jody K is my channel. I have a Telegram. I have an Odysee, but I haven't quite moved over to Odysee quite yet. So mainly YouTube and Telegram is where you can find me.
All right, hello and welcome, Jody. Nice to speak with you again, and hello to everybody. Jody was on once before back in October, and there are a few things we want to talk about today, Jody. But first of all, feel free to share anything that has been going on since we last spoke. I know there was it was a bit of a dust up with mainstream media. Trial by fire. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but a lot's gone on, and then we're going to also talk about arts and community today, also business. So before we get to some background, what have things been like since you were relatively newer and you spoke last fall?
What have things been like? Things have been, to say it's been a roller coaster would be slightly exaggerating. So I spoke with you when I was still living in Ibiza.
Yes.
I was living on an island just off the south of Spain. And I don't know if I had made the decision to come back yet when I was on your show, but it wasn't shortly after, because I arrived back in England the 5th of November.
Mm-hmm.
And the upheaval in itself, I mean, it was very smooth, but that was a really big change. I'd been living there for 10 years. I thought that would be my permanent base, even though I had this dream to travel back to the UK and travel Europe with work. But then it came all of a sudden like a bolt just shot through me and said, go home, because obviously I knew what was happening back home. And I'd got more involved, and I'd started streaming, and I'd got into the community with Mark and Laura. And I remember Mark said in one of his streams months and months and months ago, if you're living abroad, come home. And even then it kind of was ringing in the back of my mind. But then I got a really clear bolt from the universe, from divine, from God, that said, go home. So within a month I'd packed up all of my stuff, and I'd arranged to get me and my dog home. And it was COVID lockdown, and they'd said they'd shut the borders down in France and Spain so people couldn't travel. And I thought, oh, how am I going to get there? And I thought, well, just don't worry about it. You're going to get there. So I came, packed the house, had the van and the ferry back to the UK. And if you can imagine, 10 years living in the Mediterranean with the sun and the heat, and I was very close to the beach, and I landed back right at the beginning of winter. It was very cold, it was very grey. I had a physical shock to my system without the vitamin D. I'm about an hour and a half drive from the beach. I'm inland where I am. And so I had that physical shock. But then I came back and had the reality check of how much my home had changed in 10 years. It was intense. And it's only been the last couple of months that I feel I'm coming into my own again.
Is there anything you can speak to that was shocking about that coming home?
well, I haven't owned a TV since I was 16. And when I landed, I'm fortunate that my parents took me in at that time as a landing base. And they had a TV in their living room. So whilst I was there, it was on and I wanted to spend time with my parents. And just to be around the energy of the TV again and the news and the adverts. And just, there felt like such a heaviness in England, and it was this kind of unspoken it was just heaviness, this unspoken weight that was felt, and it was a very clear divide. I know people talk about the red pill and the blue pill and the white pill and the black pill, but there just seemed to be quite a clear divide between those that are aware of what's going on and those that aren't aware. And even when I landed back then, the divide was very prominent.
I could imagine. Yeah, I don't watch much TV myself, and I know you have to brace yourself a bit when you're in front of one if you're not used to it. Some people love to have it on just to have it on. I don't know if you've ever been around such times where they walk into a room, they just have to put a TV on. There has to be that noise in the background. But
No. Well, I mean, I have been around those people, but to me, I can really feel the power, because if I walk into a room, I'm sucked in. If I'm in conversation, I'm staring at it, and it wants my attention, so I'm best just not to be there.
Yeah, I just jump in really quickly to speak to what Jody's saying right there, that this is a phenomenon that I have talked about over the years and I've witnessed over the years. I've given speeches on it, and it is the power of the television to consume our attention. You can be in a conversation. Jody's talking about having it happen to herself. We've all seen it happen to ourselves, but the most eerie thing for me was over the course of my life was seeing the person that I'm in a conversation with engaging, alive, human, and then suddenly becoming almost slack-jawed and zoning in on the television. And it's like the life leaves their eye. Literally, the life like leaves their eyes. And they're just absorbing this false reality that's being spat out by the television. It is a terrifying thing. And in fact, I don't know if I put it in, maybe if I put it in one of my books that are already out. But when I was a very young child, I was taken to the movies, and I saw I guess I had the luck of turning around and looking at the faces of everybody in the theater as the movie was playing. And that was the face. And I was horrified that they were no longer thinking. Before the movie started, they were talking, they were conversating, they were thinking. And then the movie starts, and it was like zombies that were all behind. We were near the front, and it was like nothing but zombies. And so I've made a point, I think, to stay engaged the entire time with my mind. But that's something that is a very real phenomenon, and that Jody just mentioned. People talk about it, and then it's just we kind of give it like that's an odd thing, and there's something really serious and scary about it. But I just wanted to add that, and I'll toss it right back.
Yeah, I totally agree. Getting the right image here. So you had obviously been active, Jody, online before going back to England. So you had already had some connections and I guess a sense of where you wanted to be and the kinds of people you wanted to continue to do work with and learn with, learn from, learn with. Well, once you got back in England, what was it like bridging the online experience into some more in real life stuff, or at least knowing people that thought like you, that were closer to you? Like, how did that all play out?
It was exactly how I imagined it would be, because obviously moving into this arena and becoming aware of what I'm now aware of. And I do tip of the hat and huge thanks to Von Hash for guiding me and teaching me. But where we were living, it was just like the gang of us two. And when I knew I'd be returning back to England, I knew I didn't want to just be someone online. I wanted to be active in person. And I remember going on my first hike, because PA obviously are having their regional events, and they go on hikes, canoeing, kayaking, camping. It really is building a community, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I went on my first hike, and there were maybe 13 or 15 of us. And just to be, well, to me, that was a bigger, because obviously with lockdown, and I came back and I landed in lockdown. It was lockdown when I left Spain. So it was the first time I actually went out with people. But to be amongst friends that I'd never even met before, but we instantly friends because we are aware of the same things, and to be talking so openly without fear of, oh, what are they going to think of me? Can I say this? Is this a wrong thing to say? It was just like the weight was just taken off, and you can just be amongst your own and talk about your fears and your concerns and things you're proud of and things you're planning. And I got in the car and I cried, just because of the emotion I'd felt with being around such lovely, because let's not forget that we are deemed as the enemy. And they're such lovely, wholesome, normal, if I dare say that word, people. And I just got in the car and I was so overwhelmed with emotion and love, and it was lovely. And then I couldn't wait for the next one.
That's wonderful to hear. Besides the TV thing that you mentioned a moment ago, was there anything, because you were away for so long, in England, in the landscape, in the way that the towns around the region that you're from felt, that had changed? Anything in your just day-to-day experience that were obviously different now, since you didn't have the little piecemeal changes? You were away for 10 years. So anything that really stuck
Yeah,
out was a big
I
leap?
feel like my awareness of my country and my love for my country was something I've never really felt, and I felt like I'd been robbed of something my whole life. And if I knew and really honoured my home country, I probably wouldn't have left. But I left for 10 years, and then coming back and having this sense of that I'd been robbed of, like you say, the landscape and the beauty and the feeling of home. And when I'm going on these hikes, I'm starting to see parts of my country I've never seen. And when I used to go out on school trips, I was bored. I didn't want to be there. I'd rather be, out with my friends and doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. And I feel I was robbed of that. But there's, so many more houses. Like my town centre, there used to be a lovely view over a bridge into the river, and now they're building so many high tower flats, apartments, and it's feeling very claustrophobic. So I don't really go into the town centre. There's so many more buildings and people, and it's been a big change, a really big change.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that about not appreciating certain things when you're younger. At the very least, some of the silver lining in all of this is that now as adults, and I think I've seen this happen with adults even without the pressures that we're experiencing now. I think sometimes it's a natural part of maturing that you at some point start to appreciate where you come from or ask deeper questions about where you come from. So part of it's natural, but it's also for us exacerbated by the current circumstances. And it's a beautiful thing. It's never too late. At any, someone could be elderly and make these realizations and still make an effort to go learn more about the countryside around where they live and the history and the landscape. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. What about some of are you noticing more from when you left, kind of anti-English sentiments that are in even I mean, we know the obvious ones, but even things that are supposedly benign. I know the English have a good sense of humor and they're able to kind of laugh at themselves. And that's a healthy, when it's balanced with other things, that could be a very healthy thing. It's a way to kind of keep honest about certain things or not take yourself too seriously. Different cultures have their own versions of doing that, being self-critical. Um, but all of our peoples in different ways, we see this here too, the butt of different kinds of jokes and assumptions that, you're boring or you lack rhythm generally, and things like that. Maybe in England, there's a lot of stuff about the food. I personally like a lot of English pub food. I don't think that the English food should get bad rap personally, but sounds it, even something like that might sound like a silly example, but in the context of everything going on, think of like all of the cumulative effect of all these little things, even if one on its own seems benign, that gets into kids' heads. In this case, we're talking about English kids' heads, and they grow up thinking like everything else is cooler. The food from other
Yeah.
places spicier and more interesting, and all of this just chips away at a certain confidence and love that one should naturally have for their people and their homeland.
It's true, and it's said, the English, everyone thinks we're prim and proper and we all drink tea with the Queen, and on the opposite side of that we're all football hooligans. So
Right.
we have this stiff upper lip, and we do have a very, very good sense of humor. I think our humor is one of our leading qualities is our humor. We can be quite dry, so people don't often know that we're being humorous at all or satirical. And fish and chips. It's the dish of England. Fish and chips is the dish of England. But now I think the English dish, I think the most popular English dish is a chicken curry now. So
Or
I think,
chicken tikka masala. I
yeah.
saw something about that.
So the English dish, the traditional fish and chips is no longer the English dinner. And the children's names, I think the most common child's name in the UK is, I can't remember what it is, but it's a Muslim name.
Mm-hmm.
Is the most popular name in England now. So even down, people are losing the name. The traditional names like Sarah, Catherine, Charlotte, Emily. They're all, even the names are changing. So it's a culture change, and have I seen it? Because I left and I wasn't really aware. So coming back has been such an eye-opener. So I don't know if I'm just noticing it more because I didn't see it at all when I was here, or if it was always like that when I was here. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly heard, as I know you have as well. You're over there, so
Yeah.
you're close. I'm just hearing it secondhand. But plenty of your compatriots who never left for any amount of time are feeling the squeeze too. But it is always interesting to get the perspective. We've had certain guests who have done what you've done. They've gone and traveled, or they've lived elsewhere from where they grew up for some time, and it's very interesting to get that perspective because of the shock instead of living with it day to day. Maybe because we're talking about those, just all of the accumulation of these little signs and the lifestyle around you and what it means and how it can prop someone up or alternately be attacked and chipped away at. It could be a good segue to talk about the arts, something near and dear to all of us here, because
The
you've been very active, and one of, if I may say, I think it's not too much to say that one of your main things is really spearheading community based around arts. You're, of course, being a songwriter, and you're often featuring other artists or playing other songs. You had a bunch of us, including me, on your show last week,
I
or
did.
earlier this week, which I thank you for. Um, I guess not a very specific question at first, but I'll just give you the floor on anything you'd like to say about how crucial, it's not this extra ornament, but it's actually a vital part, a primary part of the kind of thing that we're trying to do.
I think I may have said this on your show last time, but for anyone that hasn't heard me say this, and I know we share the same feelings around the kind of Summer of Love era and the genre and how that made us feel then growing up. And obviously it was before our time. But when I was around 10, I'd been playing the guitar for a few years, and I was listening to Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell. I was a huge fan of folk and acoustic singers, Janis Joplin. And I honestly felt, listening to Woodstock and the Vietnam songs and, you know, the songs of inspiration back then, and I honestly felt that I'd been born in the wrong era. I felt like I should have been at Woodstock, getting high, just singing with loads of bells around me and just feeling the love and loving everyone and playing songs to inspire people. And then I learned a bit more about how that was probably very orchestrated around the Vietnam War. And then I realized when I woke up to nationalism and my voice, and I'd been singing songs for years and years since I was 16, but now my songs have taken a different path, and the words I'm singing are different, the meaning I'm singing is different, the purpose of my singing is different. And I feel now very much that I am exactly where I need to be right now. And rather than singing for the revolution from the 60s, I'm singing as a way to inspire our people to continue to have faith and continue to find courage, even though it's difficult at times and it's heavy and it's dark and the reality can be quite too much at times. But through my voice, through my songs, through the music, through the artists that I'm hearing and playing and working with and hopefully collaborating with, music as an art form and the arts in general, they're like a snapshot of history. So we are creating history right now. And how do we want to be remembered? So by inspiring others, it actually helps me to feel and maintain inspired and courageous and kind of carry our people through the energy of the music, or people are doing that through their artwork. And we just have to look at the ancient buildings, and I've started going to church and the cathedral weekly, and just to look at the buildings that our ancestors made thousands and thousands of years ago. We are doing that same creation now, so that we will be remembered in hundreds of years, thousands of years. And this is, art helps to carry the people, and the people help to carry the art.
Yeah, I really like that about the snapshot. And if my mic goes out for a minute, I know this happens sometimes on this other computer, just let me know. My primary computer was...
Yep, lost you. Oh.
As he was talking
Yeah.
about how the mic occasionally goes out, the whole thing went out. Oh wait, he's back.
Yeah, actually, where I am, there's about to be some bad tropical storms, so that's probably making the situation worse. I don't know how much you caught, but I was just saying, I'm not on my primary computer. It had an issue with sound, hearing sound, so I wouldn't be able to hear Jason and Jody. So I'm on another one, but I know every so often, from when I was on Imperial Mart last week, every so often it like sounds like I'm underwater for a second, but just tell me, because if I pause, then it goes away, so it's not too bad. But anyway, so that, Jody, that was a nice, concise explanation of how some of like your personal history, as you said, you and I have spoken more about that. And if anyone's interested, you could always search in Jody's name on our websites and go listen to the archives when she was here and when I was on her show back in December. But what about now? You mentioned this a little bit. but a little more about the community aspect, the way it there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of development already, but to me, it still feels like it's embryonic. Like it's still, we're in the early stages, and something is really developing, going to be developing more over the next couple of years, where there's a scene, and it doesn't mean that there's just one genre, like you said. But what are your feelings on, like, how, like, to what degree it should be specifically responding to the moment and addressing the moment, and the lyrics, let's say, of songs would be very political, or so. On the other hand, how much of it should be just creating songs, whatever kind of songs you want to do, but we know the backdrop to that is the artists are still from this general sphere, have these general feelings, and that there's still something, even if it's not as overt, there's still something in our values and in our aesthetics and the way we approach the world that's still humming underneath the surface. I know some people have asked, there's been different debate and different questions about that. Do you have any thoughts on that sort of thing?
I do think it's down to each individual artist, whether this is musician, singer, songwriter, painter, sculptor, choreographer. And we spoke about this on Tuesday as well, that when, as an artist and a creator, when you get into that creative space, some people talk about connecting to the divine, the God moment, or whatever people call it. It's kind of like you are open and you are a channel for what is to come through. So I work in that way. Sometimes I remember when I left the camp, the summer camp that Mark had organised, and I was in the car, I had the phone on in the car speaker, and I was speaking with someone, and this song was coming to me, and I had to cut them off. I said, I have to not speak to you right now because I've got a song coming through. And I just had to hang up the phone, sing the song, and it was my latest song that's on my YouTube channel, We're All in This Together. And it just came to me in that moment. And I feel that with an artist that can get into the zone of the space, and even sports players talk about getting into the zone when they know they're going to win. It's the zone, they call it. And when you get there, or when you connect with that space, I feel that whatever is meant to come through you at that time will. And whether this is the political stuff, I have many songs that are, I guess, it could be considered traditional acoustic folk songs, where I talk about love, I talk about heartbreak, because yes, we are in a plight, and politically I think the world, I'm new so I can't speak from before, but right now I think the world is more politicized than it ever has been, and certainly in our lifetime. So we do still have that element to sing to. That needs a soundtrack, that needs songs singing for it, but we're still human beings, so we still fall in love, we still fall out of love, we still feel lost and confused, and we still have all these emotions. And as human beings, the artist's role, I believe, is to put those feelings, feel them, alchemize them, and turn them into something that helps comfort and communicate to other people. So I believe we need everything. I think art encompasses everything.
That was beautifully said. I agree. I definitely agree in general, but it's always good to hear the way different people phrase it. And I really feel what you were saying about, we're still people, multidimensional people, who experience all of the different things people do in life. And if it was only the political songs, then the person out there who thinks like we do and is involved in these communities but is going through heartbreak, do you want them to go listen to heartbreak songs from Hollywood? Or do you want them to go listen to heartbreak songs from our artists? We have to have a whole world that people can plug into, that they don't do look for anything else outside of. So it's very complete, and I really love the way you said that. I know I was getting cut off before with the tech stuff. But what I was starting to say a few minutes ago was, again, just kudos to how you put it with the time warp. I have felt that way as well about music, where you almost, it's one of the closest things, because the recordings, now that we've had recording technology since whatever it was, technically the turn of last century, but it became obviously records, people buying records, phonograph records didn't start really on a bigger scale, I think, until we were a couple of decades into the 20th century. So maybe only about 100 years old. And then the technology got a lot better, sounds got a lot better around the mid-century. But when you think about it, you're recording those sound waves, those vibrations. Literally, it sounds hippy dippy, but they are literally vibrations. Sound waves are vibrations. It's physics, it's acoustics of what artists were picking up and singing about and cared about during that era. So I do feel I've had my moments too, as I'm sure you've had, when listening to certain things from certain eras, you can kind of half put yourself energetically into what that time felt like. You get this little simulation of some of the things that were going on during that time. So I don't think it's too much to say that it is almost like a little time warp, and you can get this snapshot of just what was percolating in the air at a certain time. And you're right, it's incumbent upon us right now to be doing that. And even if people listening aren't artists, I understand, Jody and I like to talk musician to musician, of course, but really for everyone, this applies to anything. What you're teaching, the kinds of presentations people do when they're reframing history, or how we're understanding the news and the world events and reframing them through our lens, through our value system. All of it has to be done. And that's something I think that could give people hope and sense of purpose, because I know people are extremely stressed right now. I know with the news going on as we speak today, what's been going on, for a long time, but a lot of things are coming to a head right now. I've heard from people, I'm sure we all have, people are under a lot of stress right now. There's people who feel like the world's collapsing, and we need the kinds of things that Jody's talking about. We need to understand what we have control over, what we don't have control over, but those things that we do have control over, we need to engender with meaning. Someone has to be here to be putting something better into the world, to be documenting this, to be understanding this. And we're the people that were born into this. It's a time, as my friend Jason says here, I don't think it's too lofty to say that it's a time for heroes. That's how you have to think about it, because the other option is it's meaningless, and that's going to take you down a dark, dark place, and I think we've all looked into that. But we're here, Jason and I do our best to foster our corner of the internet here, where we're all helping each other have a different perspective on that. And you're very, very good, Jody, at articulating that, but also embodying that. People often talk about the energy that you put out, the enthusiasm that you have, the love that you have. It's obvious in what you do, and people really appreciate it. So we thank you, and we're glad that you're here.
Well, thank you. But I just to touch on that, because obviously, I mean, I'm not on camera tonight, but when I stream, and I'm often on camera, and I do have this really radiant smile and the glow. But someone says, how can you be so happy all the time? There are times when I falter. There are times when I feel the heaviness, and there are times that I feel the despair, and I feel the fear.
We all do.
And then you just get out of bed, put your feet on the floor, and I honestly, I thank God every day, and I pray for the strength to get through this. And something that really inspires me and comforts me, there is no courage without fear. And we have to be courageous. We have no other choice. We're all in this together. We really are all in this together. And I've just written a song about this. So there are times, and I feel the heaviness, but like you've said, and like Jason said, we have to be the heroes. We do not have a choice, because if it's not us, It's not going to be anyone else. So, and something I'm saying a lot to everyone, as this builds and as, you know, things around us are becoming more real and closer to home, it cannot really be left in the hands of the few. And we are all the heroes. We can all be the heroes. I know you're streaming and I have my stream and I'm the artist, but this is a battle that we are all in, and that I feel we should all do our part, however big or small. We're all responsible for what we do now.
Yeah. It's like you said, there's no other choice. You can either choose to say, oh my God, why was I born into this time, and let it crush you.
Yeah.
Or say, I was born into this time and
wowee, I'm going to make the most of it.
wow, like
Yeah.
I'm born in a pretty crucial, I mean, every generation, it might not be as dramatic, but I don't know. I mean, this is the only time I've lived in. I don't want to make too many assumptions.
Yeah.
No generation has a free pass. Every generation had battles to fight and confusions to navigate through in order to pass on the torch, the good people, the healthy people, the wholesome people, to be able to pass that on and leave in posterity and legacy their art and what they create, and of course their own families primarily, so that there'll be enough of us who still carried that flame and represented the best of what we are. And so no generation has it easy. But even if it does seem like we're living in a particularly dramatic time, that's the frame for it. You have
this
to
is the
step
time
up.
we were meant for.
Yeah, there's a reason for it. You're here, and as I said, it's either that or you let it crush you.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you were starting to say this. I know you wanted to speak a little more about people participating in all kinds of ways. I know it's a little, unfortunately, because of the way things are, you know, there's certain maybe details that aren't appropriate to share publicly with some of the events you've gone to, but everything that I've seen from this side of the pond in terms of the community aspects of PA, from what you say and other people say about how active it's been. Not just, I mean, there's walks and there's initiatives, but there's all kinds of groups with just different interest groups around games or book clubs. I just, again, I know we've touched on it a bit, but you're such a good advocate of this kind of thing, of what that's been like, the role it's played in your life, how it's helped keep you healthy. Maybe a word to people who are new to this and thinking about it, and what it's like and what it could do for them.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like where you are, but with the lockdowns, I mean, when I was living in Spain, the lockdown was full lockdown. I was allowed out to walk. Luckily, I have a beautiful dog, and I was allowed out to walk her sometimes. People were getting fined for walking their dog too far. So when I was in Spain, the lockdown was heavy lockdown. When I came back to England and it was lockdown, I actually said to people, this isn't lockdown. You've got it quite easy here. But still, for what people had known as their life and their freedom, lockdown was a very difficult time. And I know psychologically I mean, I'm very blessed and very fortunate that I'm very good with my own space and I'm very comfortable in my own space. And I don't need a lot of interaction with people to feel okay. If anything, I'm quite a recluse. And I noticed that in the lockdown in Ibiza, because everyone said, oh, this is really difficult. I said, well, I've been preparing for this my whole life. Nothing's really changed. But I know for people in England, the lockdown was very, very hard. And then coming out of that, I certainly felt it, because I'm quite a recluse anyway, to be with people at first, especially that I not only speak for myself, but there can be quite a bit of social awkwardness around people you haven't met and you've just been in your home for so long, but within 5 or 10 minutes and you just start speaking and you get to know someone's name, and that whatever's there, it just is gone, and you're now amongst people that understand you. And I think that's one of the hardest things when you wake up to where we are and aware of what's going on. Being understood is such a comfort, because if
Yes.
you are
Yes.
feeling or living on your own, you think, is it just me that's feeling this? And people may have a bit of discord with their family or their friends, but just to be amongst people that understand you and they don't judge you, and you can talk and you can be with people. We are so, as a community, we are so broken where we are as a community. We're very separated, we're very disparate, we're very atomized. And what Mark and Laura are doing, they are bringing these broken parts of society together and building a community. And like you said, it comes under the umbrella of PA, but under that umbrella, well, if you like books, there's a book club. If you like music, there's a folk chat. If you like games, there's a game chat. If you like hiking, there's a hiking chat. If you like arts, there's an art chat. And so there are groups within the group, which is good, because we do all have different, just because we're all white doesn't mean we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have different likes and different interests, and so it's wonderful to experience that.
And that harkens back to a more tight-knit society anyway. That's how things functioned, obviously, in their analogs pre-internet. Um, I know, Jason, I think we've spoken with some guests about this a little bit here and there, but I know Jeff Winston talked about how his grandparents met at a dance. So that's
Oh, how
one example that
lovely.
comes to mind in the Midwest United States, um, all those years ago. But when you look back to our grandparents' time, our great grandparents' time, there were a lot more just community clubs and little interest groups and things like that. Um, Obviously, it looks different in different countries. It has its own spin depending on the region, depending on the ethnicity. But when we had that social trust, because there was more of that, the fabric was woven together. Uh, it's amazing when you look back and you hear your grandparents or great grandparents, stories of your great grandparents, talk about like, oh, I was in like the ladies this and that club in my town in like the Midwest, 'cause especially here in the States, things are it's a continent, so things are very spread out. Um, I know, you can, within a 2 or 3 hour drive, you could get to, depending on your radius, you could get to a lot of places in England within a few hours of drive. But here, that's like putting a small dent in things. But really, regardless, no matter how big or small the country is, people are designed to have that, as you were saying, the understanding, that intimacy, and that relief of feeling there are people around you that are like you and you can trust. Um, any person anywhere is wired to really have that in their immediate vicinity, in their locality. And that's the kind of thing that we've lost. But at least what you're talking about is it's really beautiful how we're picking those pieces up again, um, and creating that now. We're restarting all of that now, because these are eternal things. These are things that human beings need, and they've just been taken from us, but we're taking them back now. We'll have a little bit more, one main question, and then Jason will tell us if there's anything from the chat. But we also have to celebrate, and it fits nicely into what we're talking about, that you have taken initiative, as so many people have. We'll have to mention White Wellbeing community again, the initiative from 3 of our community members here. That's amazing. As you know, it's a search engine for all of businesses and services and arts from our people here who are working for White Wellbeing. But you have recently decided, not only are you a songwriter, you're a musician, but you started a soap company. So I love all of these different craft businesses people are starting. It's again, it's exactly in the spirit of what we're talking about. Is exactly what's needed, and I'm always just really heartened by the initiative I see and the quality of the products of what we're all doing. Like, everyone takes it damn seriously, and it's an amazing thing to do. Like, I know Laura and Sam, like the way they source their tea, it's no joke. I have some garments from the Golden Ones clothing company, and it's some of the best quality fabrics and clothing I've ever owned. So, having said that, tell us a little about Clean and Pure, the soap company from Jody K.
Well, you've just mentioned Sam and Laura, because Laura, for those that don't know, Laura is from a place in the north of England, and we like to drink tea in England, even though I'm not a tea drinker, never have, but tea is part of our culture. And Laura had been with drinking and loving this tea company, Yorkshire Tea, and
Yes.
she just praised them for not following the political move that some companies had done, and they actually disavowed her publicly. She got in a lot of the main papers. She even reached India, and I know it was really it went viral. And from that, she said, well, fine, I won't. And they said to her, please don't buy our tea anymore. So she'd been drinking that tea for don't know how long. And so they said, please don't buy our tea. And she said, well, all right, I'll find my own. And
That's the
I'll
spirit.
source my own.
That's the exact spirit.
And so she did. And as I say, I'm not a tea drinker. I did buy some to give to my family. And we said, when are you doing coffee? So then the coffee came, and then people saying, when are you doing this? And so it's building. And then my business partner, who first became my friend, we had never met. We became friends through PA, all online. We decided to start a business. Claire had done a soap making course. She was gifted a soap making course for her birthday. And I'd always just fancied, because I can make music and I can make sound and I can make things sound good, but I'm not really an arty person, so I can't really make anything with my hands. And I thought, I'd love to make soap. And we just said, well, let's start a business. Let's make a soap business. And I'd never made soap in my life. Claire was teaching me, and she was showing me all these videos. We started very small, and then we decided to meet, even though we'd just signed into a business, a company. We met, we loved each other, and we're growing from there. And just like tea, which is a consumable, when you finish your tea, you're going to buy more tea. When people have used their bar of soap, they're going to want more soap, and it's a consumable, and it's a way of generating. Not only is it yet another nationalist business, but it's a way to generate and keep the money within our own circles. So the money we get stays within us, and we're not feeding the enemy, we're not feeding the beast.
Very important. Now, obviously, when this episode is cataloged on the afterparty.tv, we will have your links, and we will include that. People are just asking in the chat now, what is the URL?
Oh, it's www.cleanandpure.shop. I'll type it, but it won't come up as a link. It won't be a hyperlink.
Yeah, I'll put it in DLive as well. I know YouTube recently stopped letting us put links in. Very nice of them. But yeah, we're happy to hear about that. You have to keep us posted about how that develops. And again, whitewellbeing.community is a search engine you can use for all such businesses, arts, services from our guys. Really important resource.
They contacted us. We're in that community as well.
Yes, and we have, who is it? Mighty White Soap Company.
Yeah, the Mighty White. Someone was sending me pictures of their soaps, and some of their soap titles are really, really, really funny.
Yeah, well, was it? I saw on your Telegram. Did someone else make this, or did you actually make the mug that said "Soap, Not Hate"?
That was my. Well, a lot of when we were thinking of a name for the company, we put it in the chat, and everyone said, "Call yourselves Soap, Not Hate." And we thought, well, can't do that. And because it was soap, it became like a popular meme. So yeah, we had the mug. That'll be on sale next week.
It's hysterical. I love that. Well, Jason, do we have any comments or questions from the chat?
We do. It's been It's been a fantastic conversation. And I think one of the things that always strikes me about Jody when she's talking, and it's so, I guess, fundamental of a marker of and a place we all need to come from if we're going to be successful, is that you can hear when she's talking about the pain, the victimization of our people, the pain that anti-whites are inflicting on our people. You can hear the pain in her voice. And the pain is because of a love that is being injured. And an injured love paired with the desire, the courage to defend, to stand up for what's right, to do the right thing, to be courageous, to overcome the fear, to do something glorious with one's life. That is what engenders something pure and heroic, and that lasts. Something fresh and pure, I guess I should say. But that's the place we have to come from, because if we don't come from that place, ultimately, it is just a lot of maybe I could say windbaggery. I mean, it's just a bunch of playing the villain in their story, being white negative with our white sympathies, and that won't get us anywhere. It never has. And so it is something new that we're doing here, and something that is proven to be very successful. The only thing that's been successful. We do have some financial gifts and questions with those, and we're going to get started right now. Thank everybody for those questions and financial gifts. We'll start off with the one and only Tall Kevin, and he financially gifts $3. He says, "Sorry, I'm not a big ballin' when it comes to the donation, but hopefully in a few weeks that changes. Brother, every single penny counts. So thank you so much. No need to apologize. Please don't. And I thank you all the same, no matter what." Jody, what do you think of simps? Should they be shunned, or do they have a purpose in our movement? And I guess when Kevin is talking about simps here, I assume he's talking about the guys who just follow around lady content producers, and then they immediately sub to them. I mean, we see this, we know this is a reality, and they'll ignore the men and then complain about that we shouldn't be following the women. But every single one of those guys ends up having a subscription to every single female content producer. We know the difference between those kinds of guys and the kind of guys that you are when you are a man of the West and serving white well-being. What do you think, Jody, about simps? And should they be shunned, or do you think they have some kind of a purpose in the movement?
I mean, adoration from a man in a gentlemanly way is flattering. That's always been the case between male and female. It's very flattering. But I guess the simps you're referring to, it was hard for me, I think, being a new face and actually showing my face and being a female, because I didn't want to be seen as a thought. So I guess the opposite of a simp is a thought. And I didn't want to be seen as a thought. I wanted to be seen as, to be taken seriously. And I know there is one stance that women really have no place in this movement. It's a man's movement. It's a man's sphere. I get it's a masculine. I think the masculine should be the domineering force that we're in. But the feminine brings so much. Mm-hmm. You just have to look at Laura. Laura has had business. Laura is the yin and yang of Mark. You know, PA is the masculine and the feminine. So with the simping, are you there just to simp, or you're there because you actually really like what this female is saying? Or is she just a pretty face and you want the attention from her? Or so should they be shunned? I don't think they should be shunned, but just, are you doing anything else than simping? Is that all you're here to do? Is just simp?
Yeah, that's a great answer, actually.
On that note, it looks like you just got a marriage proposal in the chat.
Oh, yes, she did.
The answer is yes. I don't mind that sort of simping. But then it goes another way, because I remember I got doxxed a couple of months ago, and Mark, I think it was on the stream with you, Jason. Mark was doing a fundraising for me, mm-hmm. and it was, I had a lot of males that were donating, and it was like, oh, simp, oh, you're simping for her. And it's like, actually, no, I really just want to support her.
Right.
So there needs to be this definition between actual supporting the women and simping.
Yeah, I think one of the characteristics, and then folks can, break down maybe in some other stream exactly what are the symptoms of simping.
Yeah.
But a real characteristic of one of these individuals who referred to as a simp is that they're attempting to have some sort of imaginary relationship. They are, with the woman, they are giving her just gifts after gifts, and they are fantasizing that they are in some sort of relationship. And then when the woman who is receiving the gifts, she feeds that a little bit. It doesn't take much. That's what engenders that sort of simp mentality. And that. So otherwise, I mean, men and women in White Wellbeing, we stand side by side, and we have different strengths and different weaknesses. And we fit together perfectly like puzzle pieces in all ways. That's how men and women are supposed to work. And that's why when I gave my rant the other day about this woman in Loudoun County, the county just won over from me, where she's a teacher and she's a Christian, and she's quitting because she's finally had one of these anti-white obedience trainings, and she has read that, wow, they are now including white women. And so she decided to quit, and very tearfully. And it was a lot of people were like standing behind her. And I thought, where the hell was she the day before it's included white women? I mean, why was it that she was okay with white men? Why was it that she was okay with white children, being white erased, being slandered? And so, I think that it's easy to create these environments where if a woman wanted to manipulate men into continuing with these imaginary relationship, that she could. And as long as that's not happening, then there really won't be much of a simping petri dish for those sorts of things to grow. But to move along, Max Anderson, financially gifting £3. Thank you, brother. Writes, Jason, I've been using your dialogue in conversations. The words are really powerful. It is astounding. Well, thank you so much, Max, for that testimonial to the lexicon of going free. We are having ungodly success with it, spreading it around the world, absolutely changing the conversation, and therefore the rules and laws and opinions and positions. And when I say positions, I mean the position of whether or not we are in the moral high ground of our story or the immoral villain in theirs. And so our people are coming to it, and we just need to keep pushing it like there's no tomorrow. God bless you, brother. Johnny Reb, financially gifting $6, says, Bonjour, Jody, Jared, and Jason, from Johnny. I hope you appreciate the alliteration. Sorry, Jody, I know it's late in England. Well, thank you so much, Johnny. We appreciate it so very much. Tall Kevin back again with $3 financial gift. And folks, if you have any other questions, very quickly get them in. You can tag me in the live chat, No White Guilt, or you can come over here to the question widget, or you can financially gift on Entropy as well, or Cash App. I'll be checking that in just a moment. Tall Kevin back with another $3 financial gift. He says, yeah, baby, yeah. Jody, your thoughts on the character Austin Powers? Oh, I should have read that more appropriately. He goes on and says, was he a criticism of UK foreign policy or UK culture? Was he really making people randy, or was it all a front to sell movie tickets?
Oh God, I watched Austin Powers, I guess, when I had my sleepy eyes on, my sleepy lenses. If I watched it again, I'm sure if I watched a lot of films that I used to watch now, I would see a very different narrative, and I'd see a very different movie. So I can't answer that because I haven't seen it with my new lenses. To me, back then, it was satire, it was humor. Yeah, baby, yeah. And, I don't know if I would find it funny now. I don't know, because I can't remember. And what we were saying at the beginning with the TV and the screen, I find it very hypnotizing. And I think with something like Austin Powers, it was so colorful and it's all very fast that my eyes were just fixed, and I was going, oh, pretty colors, rather than watching the underlying message.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's one of the exercises that we do in going free when you are educating yourself. It's a lifelong process, folks, a practice, is to go back, but you sit on the edge of your chair with a notepad and a pen, so that at no point are you just passively observing, but you sit right on the edge. You're taking notes. In fact, Roy Danton is here. He's done it and stunned himself, because you think back to, okay, well, I used to watch this TV show or that movie back when I was a child, and try to think of any of the meme pathogens, any of these anti-whiteisms that you know of now, and can you think of any? And very often people can't. Then they turn the show or movie on. They sit on the edge of their seat with a pen and notepad, and mouths are hanging open. They are stunned how anti-white those things are that they cherish. Then you begin to understand how deeply rooted in your subconscious mind are these MPs, and then how deleterious, how harmful they are to your psychology, and therefore physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. We have No White Guilt Clips, financially gifting $10. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. He writes, so I banish about 90% of my worries by taking these 4 steps. Number 1, writing down precisely what I am worrying about. Number 2, writing down what I can do about it. Number 3, deciding what to do. Number 4, starting immediately to carry out that decision. Magnificent. No white guilt clips. Absolutely. Yeah. The problem with, and then I'll let Jody speak to this. The problem with just worrying is that you have to take some sort of action. You either have to decide that you are going to stop worrying because there's nothing you can do, or you're going to have to take an action to deal with the concern, to deal with the worry. So if you don't, then you're just eaten up by it. And when it comes to going free, it's very easy to take action, to take steps that are lawful, that put you in the moral high ground, and that are extraordinarily effective, as proven by all of these success. But Jody, any thoughts on what No White Guilt Clips had to say, and anything that you would add about dealing with worry? I'm sure you probably have something artistic, like indulging in maybe your favorite song or something like this.
I've written songs in that place of despair. And what I was saying earlier with music and how it's a bit of a snapshot, and Jared was saying it's a bit of a time warp, because I was able to convey those feelings and put those feelings in the song, when people hear the song, they get to feel what I was feeling. And so it's a way of communicating, and it's a way of letting people know that you're actually not alone. And so I'm in agreement with what No White Guilt Clips has said. But the first thing, he's actually writing something down. And I think if you're worried about something, or if you're bombarded with work or tasks, write it down, because then it's not bouncing around your brain. You're actually putting it on paper. It doesn't matter what you're putting on paper, just write. I find writing very therapeutic. But yeah, if you can write down, this is what's worrying me, this is what I'm going to do about it. You're taking the choice, I'm going to do something about this. I know I'm feeling like this. I know why I'm feeling like this. The choice is, I stay feeling like this and I'm going to get worse and worse, or I'm going to change this. I'm going to do something about this. So put yourself in control. That will uplift you anyway. And know that it's okay. You're going to have down moments. Of course we're going to have down moments, but don't stay there. It will eat you. And I say a prayer every day, every morning. It's the serenity prayer, and it says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because some things we just can't change. And if we can change them, ask for courage and ask for the wisdom to know the difference. It's such a beautiful prayer.
Yeah, that I agree completely. It's quite a bit of wisdom sewn into that. We have one final question, folks, and then we're going to be tapping out. Tall Kevin back again with $5 more. God bless you, brother. Thank you so very much. Jody, let's role play. I'm an American traveling to the UK. How do you show me and my family a good time in the UK? But please don't take me to a Beatles concert or give me black pudding or any Cromwell statue. And then he makes a suggestion here that I have a name I can't say on while we're streaming. But what would you do if you had the tall Kevin and his lovely family, wife and children show up? What might you take them to do in the UK that's left and has not been white erased or spoiled by anti-whiteism? And then your final thoughts, and tell folks, please, where they can find you.
What was the name? Tall Kev?
Yes.
Well, if Tall Kev and his family came over, I would drive you a very scenic route down to the southwest of England, through Devon, through Cornwall. We would stop off in one of the beaches in Cornwall, lovely, lovely picturesque mountains. Then we would go to a pub, would have a pie and chips, possibly with gravy, a pint of cold cider, then we'd go for a hike with the dog.
Oh,
and then after
sounds
that, we would go north and we would drive to Scotland and we would go and visit the Highlands and the scenery up there and eat haggis.
There you go. There you go, Kevin. Now you know exactly what to do on your next vacation, brother. She just spelled it out for you. Now, Jody, you were absolutely wonderful, and it's so just superb and heartwarming that every time I've talked with you, and then the second time now that we've had you on tap, and we will definitely have you back again in the future. And looking forward to much success with your Fresh and Pure. Was that what it was?
Clean and pure.
Clean and pure.
Yeah.
Clean and pure. Business, soap business. I'm going to have to get me some of that soap. And all of your artistic endeavors. You are a lovely musician, have a fantastic voice. What are you doing next? Where can folks find you? Your final thoughts?
Oh my goodness, what am I doing next? Well, apart from making and creating and planning on new soap, I am, this coming Tuesday on my stream on YouTube, I have Dennis Fetcho coming on from Inside the Eye Live. That was arranged through my dear friend Von Hash. And the week after that is my 1 year anniversary. So for your audience that don't know, I only woke up. I started streaming on September the 1st, but I woke up about 14 months ago. I was a liberal. I was on the left. I was a liberal. And I had a very, very, very severe wake up that got me where I am. So I'm only a year old, and my year anniversary is a week on Tuesday. So I will be there showing what I've done in a year and what can be accomplished if you put your heart and mind to it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And you are both individually invited to come on, but also together. I would love, because Jason, you've not come on yet, so I would love that to happen too.
Delightedly. Thank you for the invitation. And where can folks find you, sister? So
my YouTube channel is Jody K. I think one of your mods, Raymond, had shared that earlier. And okay. I have a Telegram. I will find my @ and I'll quickly post that. I do have a private, a group Telegram. So again, this won't come up as a hyperlink, but it will be there in your chat. Is it coming up? There we go. So there's my Telegram. And I am on Odysee. I think I have a BitChute, but I'm only on YouTube and Telegram. They took me off Twitter. They didn't warn me. I hadn't broken any rules. I hadn't done anything. They got rid of about 1,200 followers.
Jeez.
Yeah, just because I was me.
Yeah. I'm afraid you're not anti-white enough, as we'd like to say over here in service to white well-being. That's what they need. They need you to be as anti-white as all hell. And when you're not anti-white enough, then they cut you loose.
Yeah.
Until then, I mean, unless that's happened to you folks, you're flying under the radar when it comes to the anti-whites. But Mr. George.
Yeah, they just don't like what you represent, Jody, but take it as a badge of honor. And I would be more than happy to join on that Tuesday stream as well.
Amazing.
we started around the same time too, because tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of the Great Order site, actually, and I published my first video to YouTube, I believe, on September 1st of 2017.
Wow.
So similar time of year. I'd woken up or come to certain conclusions, I should say. Obviously, before that, I didn't wake up and make a website in one day, but similar anniversary. So I'm very happy to join you. It was lovely as always to speak to you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so generous with what you do. It's great to hear that you're doing your Tuesday night streams, which are 7 o'clock, right? UK time?
7 o'clock UK, which I think is your 2 p.m.
2 o'clock. We're
2 o'clock.
Aside from a couple of odd times a year when we don't do daylight savings at the same time in October and March, and there's a 2 or 3 week gap, I think a 2-week gap, we're usually 5 hours apart, the East Coast, US and the UK. But my site is thegreatorder.com, catalog for what I do, working on new music, working to spread the song that came out a few weeks ago, What's in Us. Again, Jody is very generous about having me on her show a couple of times and spreading that. But reaching out to different types of spheres and content creators and journalists, because it really is a song for the moment. And I've gotten great feedback about it. So I don't like really selling my own stuff too much, but I have gotten enough where I know it's resonating with people. And if you want to do your part, please do share it. I think it's kind of being suppressed right now. It's been shared in so many places. The numbers don't really add up, but we're not going to use that as an excuse. We want to get it in front of a lot of different people. It speaks to a lot of different concerns. And just like what Jason's doing with his community building and teaching, we're not doing this to be in a niche, a little corner of the internet and be the bad guys. Some people, most people, sensible, understand what we're doing. Some people think that we are, tough guys when we turn off the computer, but we speak all like we do on the computer because we're trying to be optics cucks or something. No, this is who we are. We are showing that you can be a healthy person and just integrate your heritage and defending and honoring your heritage into that without acquiescing into these silly stereotypes, without getting your center thrown off and going off the deep end. So we thank all of you who get that and are doing that here with us. And in the spirit of what I've been saying, we appreciate if you share things around, because we have to be the ones doing that in our own networks. So a lot of exciting things coming down the pike. I had a wonderful conversation with Donald, Kent, and Nullis on Imperium Art, their show last week. It really brought a lot of different things together about where I'm coming from and just the arts, and touched on some of the things we spoke about with Jody here today as well, the role of the arts and kind of big picture stuff. So please do find that on their channel. It's cataloged on my site, again, thegreatorder.com. Me and Jason share the afterparty.tv, where this episode with Jody and everything we've done over the last 3.5 years is cataloged as well. So please bookmark and share that too. We're on social media. Follow us. We use what we can, but our own websites are much more secure and something that we're building for posterity. Other than that, Jason, please take us out, my friend.
Thank you so much, brother. And thank you so much, Jody, for being here with us. It's been glorious, as it always is glorious when we get together in service to White Wellbeing. With a heart full of love, we raise our shields and spears, and we defend all that we love and care about from those who would victimize us. We let people decide what they're going to be, folks. Are they going to be anti-white? Are they going to join us to put an end to anti-whiteism? They're going to be some sort of neutral gray matter out there in the background that is neither here nor there or relevant whatsoever. No one will remember their lives. That's up to those out there. We don't make that decision for them. We're doing what's right, moral, pure, and good, clean and pure and good. And that is why we continue to bring new people to the wonderful work that we are doing, a work that will not be defeated by the anti-whites, their hatred, their anti-whiteism. I want to give a big thank you to everybody who participated in the live chat today. A big thank you to everybody, of course, who financially gifted. And a hello to everyone watching live and in the replay who decided not to speak, but wanted to be a part of the conversation by listening nonetheless. A big thank you to Raymond, Fernell, and Roy for moderating the show today. We always have issues with anti-whites showing up, pretending to be like they're white sympathetic people and saying very ugly things to imitate the villain in the anti-white narrative. That's not us, folks. That's why we get rid of such people. And so it was wonderful. We look forward to having Jody back. I look forward to being on her program on her birthday. And folks, we will see you all again here on tap next time.